and welcome back to part 22 of Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, where today we're continuing our little sidetrack from yesterday. Yesterday we took down the third of the 4 horsemen, so we now have 3 menorahs, which is the requirement to open the next floor in the Labyrinth of Amala. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through the whole 3rd floor, like how we dedicated a video to the 1st and the 2nd. And then it'll be on the next video that we'll actually, get back to the plot, go back to Asakusa, and from there talk to Hikawa to go check up on our old friend in the Amala network and whatever's happened to him. Because last time we saw Izumu, I never know how to pronounce his name. Is it Isamu? I'm going to say Isamu. I'm going to try and say Isamu. Maybe that's right. It sounds more right than Izumu. But Isamu, last time we saw him was at the top of the prison that used to be owned by the Mantra. And he seemed a bit disgruntled with the world and seemed very much in this idea of independence and isolationism. That he should be in his own bubble space and can't rely on anyone. Which will lead into the glimmers of what his reason will develop into. But I'm not going to go too much into that because the game will later. He's going to have a very, very long talk with us, like Shiaki did, about what it means and what they're trying to achieve and what they believe is the real path of everything, yada yada. But that's for later. I've got to talk about the 3rd kalpa. The 3rd kalpa is definitively split into 2 parts. The first part can be done in about 30 seconds, and the second part is the real meat of this floor. The way the first part works is that there are 3 doors on each compass point, ignoring the one you just entered. Each of the doors will not open unless a specific stat is high enough to let you. One of them has a strength limit, one of them I believe is magic, and the last one I believe is luck. You need at least 15 points in one of those 3 stats to open one of those doors. All 3 of them lead to loot and then circle round to the floor underneath us. The only way to get to that floor underneath is to take at least one of these doors. My strength stat is high enough to open it, but my magic and luck aren't for the other doors, so you're only going to see one route as we go through. Because by the time my magic and luck are in positions where I could come back and open these doors, we're so late into the game where I end up deciding that the loot isn't worth it. Because predominantly, it's mystic chests in these floors. They're not like the dedicated items you would find in some other places. They are the odd like item cube or the item cache, but not many. It's predominantly the mystical chests, which are completely random in what they give you outside of very specific circumstances. So I did a bit of research into them because it was annoying me. It is very much, unless instructed otherwise, they are random. And that's just the way you've got to look at it. So there's a couple instances throughout the game, and a number of them actually, where they'll always be what they are. No matter when they open them. But there's a large number of others which can be random variable of many different things. Also, there's a death stone in the strength door, so you do want to come through here when you can. I think the biggest, cheek when it comes to the death stones is, the last one that you'll be getting on the 5th kalpa is something that you have to actually kind of commit to memory. Because it's a door that won't really... You can go through the door, but there'll be nothing on the other side up until you finish the Labyrinth of Amala in its entirety. The 5th floor has this entire gimmick where every single door is not what it seems, and they will either ask for a specific demon, or you have to fulfill a prerequisite. Like, to give an example that will lead into getting these death stones, there's a door that will open no matter what when you try and interact with it, but you'll just find nothing but 4 walls on the other side until after you've cleared the Labyrinth of Amala. Once you've entirely cleared it, when you go back, you'll be able to walk through the walls there, and it leads to a load of loot, with one of them being an item cache that has 3 death stones in it, just casually. But this enemy here, you're going to start finding more and more basic enemies with either Beast Eye or Dragon Eye as you go forward, so get used to normal enemies, dragging out fights but being able to attack more often. So making sure your hit and evasion is in a decent position, and maybe your luck is in a nice place, isn't something that's too bad of an idea. Especially if you're playing hard type, which hard type is something I haven't really spoken about because it's a mod. But you have to emulate the PS2 version, and then it's a mod for that, so it's a bit of work that you have to get to put it together. But hard type's fun. It's a really nice reinvention of the wheel that incorporates a lot of stuff from later SMTs into it, whilst rebalancing the game to make the challenge still fair, but really unforgiving in other ways. That you can't just power your way through it. In the same vein, you can kind of power through normal or hard on this with the right skill set. Like, they will continuously find new ways to challenge you. And, like, some of them are really clever. Like, the final boss, the actual final boss of the game on hard type, they replaced their normal attack with, it still does the animation, still does the attack, but it does 0 damage and instead takes, like, 150 MP. So the very magic reliance you can be on the fight is very quickly crippled because they can just rip it from you whenever they want. And like things like that, I enjoy that kind of like extra thought. Some of the health buffs are a bit ridiculous. There's a bot, like the first major boss you encounter in the final dungeon. It has its health bar skyrocketed to the point it has more health than anything else ever in the game. Like it has surplus of 100,000 in hard type, and it feels kind of pointless. It feels like it's just there to drag out the fight, and the fight ends up taking forever because of it. And I have like played some of hard type myself. I haven't played much of it because some of it is kind of wild. Like you have to have a very firm understanding of what you're doing, understanding what items you can, because if you can get the skill trade, which will allow you to talk to demons to get items, you'll realize that in hard type that goes from a nice little thing that you don't really do that much to a borderline necessity. It's also worth mentioning on the third kalpa, on this opening floor, most of the doors are one way. So you're gonna have to go through this entire floor, presumably twice, minimum, to get everything, because some doors will lock up behind you and you can't get back to them. And there's a path split sort of thing. There's a fork in the road, so you have to go around later. You're also going to find the burial stones here. There's a burial stone on each one, so at some point you are going to power grind. And when I beat... Not because I've beaten the main game, and at some point... I don't know if I'll do it or like record it, but at some point I will. I'm going to get those black lenses and try and do the graves. But I won't record it unless I reach a position where I'm comfortable that I can do all of them. Because some of them expect you to have a very deep knowledge and understanding of the game before you even try and tackle it. Because almost all of them are X enemy has to die within set number of turns. And it's not as simple as just bring your A game, punch the hell out of it and hope it dies in 3 turns. It's usually you spend 2 turns buffing the hell out of yourself and nerfing the hell out of the enemy's defense. And then on the last turn, do 1 strong strike and pray to God it's enough to kill. And it's something that the DLC final boss of SMT4, which yes, there's 2 DLCs for SMT4. Both of them had unique bosses in their own little mini story, and the second of the one feels like the true final boss of the game. But that's a discussion for another time. That'll be something we'll discuss properly when we get to it. But either way, the DLC final boss of SMT4. That entire final boss was you had to kill it in 10 turns or it didn't happen. The world ended. Or like all life in the universe would be destroyed. And that fight was exactly that. It was, you spent 2 turns buffing the hell out of yourself and nerfing the hell out of Masakado, the name of the boss. And then on the 3rd turn, you power charged, full force attack, tried to do as much damage as possible. Then spent turn 4 and turn 5 upping the buffs again, because every time it's hurt, it immediately responds with Takatra and Dakunda. So after you hurt it, you'd have to immediately go back on the offensive on nerf and buffing for turn 4 and turn 5, attack on turn 6, buff and nerf turn 7 and turn 8, attack on turn 9. And if you haven't killed it on turn 9, you probably aren't killing it on turn 10. Because starting turn 10, it's just Takaja'd and Takunda'd. So unless it's on extremely low health, you're not winning. But I loved that fight. I loved working out how to get it in a good position, getting the right demons to be strong enough to get the smackdown on it. And because it's a DLC fight, they kind of went ridiculous with it. So they didn't need to fret about balancing it so it was capable of doing by most players. They could kind of go over the top with it. And it's a similar thing that For Apocalypse did. But For Apocalypse For Apocalypse, I think to an extent got away with it better, because 4's DLC, it felt like it should have been in the main game. Especially the second of the two, the one where you go fight Masakado. It really felt like it should have been a part of the main game. Whilst Apocalypse, they feel like more cheeky add-ons that mix it up more. So if you come over here, there's a door. Only a Servant of Darkness may pass. I completely forget about that door, so don't open it. But if you're going completely for the Chaos route, as in every instance you are refusing to be neutral and siding with demonic life and refusing to side with mannequins or angels or just basically being a demon through and through, you'll be able to open that door because your moral compass, so to speak, will become dark enough for you to do so. But you see, I come over here and the menorah starts glowing, so I leave. And also over here, there's a gold door, unique from those silver ones. The gold door is something you're going to have to put in the deepest pit of your memory and leave there. Because although it has no relevance right now, it is significant to accessing the 5th kalpa. As I've said before, the batch of bosses you fight, it ends caring after the 4th. There's only 4 more menorahs to get a hold of in the game, and the 4th kalpa requires 4 to access. So we don't need any to access the 5th in that sense. So, to make it so you can't just immediately go straight from the 4th to 5th, they make it that you have to do some puzzle solving, and it involves that gold door. But here I go back and try the other doors to see if my luck is even remotely high enough. No, it's not. My luck is nowhere near close to being high enough to open it. Because when you try and open it, no, the door cannot be opened. I cannot let one of such meager luck pass through. And so we are sent away. I think the last one might actually be agility instead and not magic, because my magic stat isn't hideous. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Well, I say that, it doesn't need to be anything special because I knew my final build wasn't going to include any magic on Demi-Fiend. Like, on my first playthrough of the game, coming fresh off some of the other SMTs, I embraced magic a lot and then learnt the hard way that magic on Demi-Fiend is the worst way to go. That if you want to get stronger quicker and you want to become comfortable with the game's meta and balance, doing what I've done and push for all physical is a brilliant way to go, because you'll just become very devastatingly strong. There's a couple skill check bosses that are either immune or reflect physical that will become a hurdle, but that's where your demon allies come into play. You make your demon allies make up for Demi-Fiend being physical only. Speaking of physical only, I've reached the max out point of my strength now. I've mentioned before that throughout the game, 30 is the cap, like the raw cap you want to say. I know it says 32, but that's because of the Magatama's boosting it, but its raw stat is 30. So that is where you want to leave it. Because boosting it any further would be pointless. So this one's an interesting one. Now I'm reading it, I remember it. It's a mixture of doors. You need decent strength, decent magic, and decent luck to get through. So this one is a magic test, but there's another door beyond it that will have a physical one, another one that's beyond it that's a luck one. I've yet to record any bonus videos yet, so maybe I will do a bonus video that shows what all these doors lead to. Especially on the 5th floor. On the 5th kalpa, sorry. There's a whole bunch of doors that I can't access because of very specific builds that I have made and developed by that point. And so I want to, off-screen, grind. Because essentially when I beat the game, I saved on a separate file. So I've got one save that's literally on the door of the final boss, so I can backtrack and do other stuff. And the save that's completed file, so I can do a New Game Plus in my own time if I want to. But what I'll probably do, saying that out loud, is when I decide I want to do New Game Plus, I'll just fight the final boss again because I'd rather take my grinded stuff and the more filled out compendium. Because I am at some point going to want to grind out the compendium, because I do want to try and go for 100%. There are a couple outliers that make it a bit awkward in Nocturne, but I want to try and go for it. There's a couple things you can only get when you're cursed, so I'm going to have to deliberately curse myself at some point. Which, to be fair, you can still, if you max out all the Magatamas, which takes a hell of a lot of levels, by the way, but if you max out all the Magatamas, you're not immediately screwed out of getting cursed. Magatamas can still react after they're maxed out and can still curse you.
Hey, kiddo. Had a feeling I'd see you again. And I was right. Looks like I hit the jackpot. Now, I'm not here to go into detail, But I'm sure you have some idea already. That old geezer's planning to have the fiends kill each other off. Why? Who knows? But you're not dumb enough to play into his hand, are you? Then get lost. And don't look back. That's your only option. You get me? You're asking for it, kid. Okay, guess we're gonna do this the hard way. Take one step beyond this point. Bang! Got it? Playtime's over. From here on out, it's showtime.
Time to enter the second half of the third kalpa and the real main event. Once you're done messing around up top, you get this. It seems as if someone is watching you. The way this works is every single demon that was here has been killed by Dante, so there's no encounters. But Dante is actively pursuing you. It's like genuinely one of my favorite parts of the game. You're actively being hounded by Dante. If he catches you, it'll go into a fight where regardless of whether you win or lose, he will kick you out the dungeon.
You don't know the rules. So, here's the deal. To get past here, you need to turn off all the switches first. Alright. I'm gonna count to 3. That's how long you've got to come up with a plan.
So you've got to consistently avoid him. And the cheeky thing is when you enter this room, he doesn't count in time, he counts in distance. When you make so much distance from the door, he will then start coming for you. But you have not much time to plan out your route before he enters and now the game is on. And he's going to start pursuing you again. And the closer he gets to you, the louder his theme gets. Also, he will just warp around the place to get in your way. So you've got to really pay attention to the patterning and work out where he is. The idea of each of these rooms is that there are switches everywhere that will eventually open a main door. You've got to open all these main doors. The door is just there. He's just waiting for you. So you got to flick all the switches and then open the door and then get to the door. But Dante's no idiot. The moment you flick the last switch, Dante will just move towards the door you've just opened and wait there for you. So you have to try and lure him out. What I was doing just there when I was lingering around it is that in the corner of this room, there's a warp to take you to the other corner. Because I didn't know precisely where Dante was, I waited until he came for me, so I knew when it was safe to take the warp and which path to take. But unfortunately, the route he was coming at me from was the path closer to the door I was trying to get to, so I knew there was a chance I could run into him. Which is why, as we were running to the door, we saw him around the corner. If he went the other way, we would have been long past him by the time he got anywhere near us. But you can see when you come out here, he's gone. Don't open this door. I do it to show you what happens. He's staring you down the moment you do. So I immediately go, oh, and run. To try and slow you down, he will use ebony and ivory and just open fire on you. To try and like bob and weave as you go a little bit to try and avoid getting shot. You will get shot a lot, but it doesn't do much damage because the intention of it is to slow you down so he can catch up to swing at you. And like I said, if he swings at you and makes contact, it will start a fight, and regardless of the victor, it will kick you out. So you've just got to stay on the evasive. But I love the fact there's no enemies in here. Dante killed all of them. So it's literally just you and Dante work it out. But when you enter the second part of it, it's a bit more elaborate. There's 3 doors instead of 2, and Dante's lurking around. But there's a door to the left and a door to the right, and a door in the middle. Do not go into the door in the middle first. The way it will work is that Dante won't pursue you into this room until after you flick the switch, and then he will beeline straight for you. So as soon as we flick this switch, he now knows we're here and will start working towards us. But his AI will prioritize blocking the door when all 3 switches are opened, so you can save your neck. As you can see, Dante's right there. But because of the invisible walls, he's not beelining straight for us, he's working his way around. If he doesn't know exactly where you are, he will only walk. It's only if he knows precisely where you are, he will start running. But if you flick the left and right switch, you can more easily get around him. If you flick the middle one's far more linear, and so it becomes very easy for Dante to get to you. So you need to kind of, to take a shot around the corner. You need to do the side doors so you can more like kite around him and get around him like a zombie in Call of Duty. Before worrying about the middle room, because the moment you flick the middle switch, like I said, his AI will prioritize blocking the door because the door will then be opened. And you see, I'm always keeping a lookout of where I'm going to try and see where he's gone to, where he's up to. Because Dante does kind of just warp around when he wants to get a hold of you. And if you're doing the Chronicles version, Raido has a gun as well, so the system still works of Raido will take pot shots at you to try and slow you down when you're running away here. Because yes, you will encounter Raido here instead at this point. The entire third Kalpa is the Dante Raido floor. And there he is again. And so, because it's the same floor format, I wait for him to circle round, and then I will circle round him. But you've got to, like, if you wait until he passes the corridor and then try and go, Dante's AI kind of knows where you are anyway, and will turn around on the spot. So you've got to really make sure you see him turn the corner before you go, because he will just swivel. He will just swivel on the spot and come back round. But now we've got those two, there's only one more door of significance to open. Before we can open this door back at the entrance. You see, I lost my bearings a little bit because I was aware that Dante's still around, and I don't know where he is because of how much he warps around. But this is the room. This maze, once you know where you're going, is actually a very linear path from here to the door, with nowhere else to really go. If you go here before the other two, you'll get cornered by Dante almost immediately. Because there's nowhere else for you to really break off to the door. Everywhere leads. Like, you got that little split where it curves around, but that's kind of it. It's still an awkward turnaround. So if you come here last, you can avoid it entirely, because Dante will just door watch. He'll just camp the door until you show up. But once you get through that door and down the ladder, you are unfortunately already done with this. I wish they did one more room, like a rule of three, instead of the last one be 4 switches, and it was a bit more hectic. But no, after this, they consider it, they wrap it up. It's like, no, you've had enough of a run around. Which is like literally the only thing I can really criticize about it. I just wish it was a bit longer, because it's genuinely, like I said, one of my favorite parts of this game. Every time I go back through it, it's just messing around with this. At some point, I'll do a Raido run as well, but not yet. Maybe, like, my intention is, because I want to try and get all the trophies for this game. One of the trophies is beat it on hard. What I'll probably do is, there's Dante, by the way, just door camping. So I try and get into his eyesight, and then the moment he is, immediately turn around. But, oh, there he goes! Ow, ow. So what I'll do is, after I've like maxed out the compendium and done everything on my main save, then make a new save on hard and make it a Raido run, make it a Chronicles run. Just then I can experience that. And if I do that, you'll get another bonus video of me showing off what makes Raido different from Dante. Because as I've said before, Raido's harder in my opinion. Like, they've buffed Dante in this to make him closer to Raido, especially when you get him as an ally. In the remaster, they've given it's a skill called Sun's Oath that used to be just a 50% attack boost, but now it's a 50% attack boost and has Pierce with it, making it much more relevant, whilst Raido has always had Pierce, which is why he was the more valuable asset. Pierce, I've talked about it before, but if you don't know what it is, it's a unique skill to SMT3 that means that your attack, your physical attack, will ignore defenses. It will also ignore blocks. And I believe drains. I think the only thing it doesn't ignore is reflects. If you punch or reflects, he will still be reflected back at you. But it will ignore resistances and blocks. And so you can really use it to save yourself in fights that would otherwise be very difficult.
Thought you got away? You're dead wrong. Checkmate! There's no place to hide. So what you gonna do, kid?
But at the end, you fight Dante for real, and this time he'll be bringing his A game. He has everything on him, except, ironically, Sun's Oath. The only time you'll fight Dante with Sun's Oath is if you're playing that hard type I was talking about earlier. One of the changes that they do give him Sun's Oath, so he will have the 50% attack boost, because hard type is based on the original foundation of the game, but not this remaster. And so he doesn't have Pierce. But although Dante is harder and has full access to his arsenal, I genuinely don't find him as difficult as the first fight, because you have more with you at this point. You have a more defined set of skills and what you're trying to do by now compared to your first run. So Twosome Time, although it's still a threatening attack, is nowhere near the threat it used to be. And because we have Daisojo, a simple prayer will get rid of the confusion problem. He does have an ultimate skill though that he doesn't use once in this fight, but I get a recording of it anyway, so you'll see it later on. Because I've talked about it a couple times, but throughout the entire journey of this recording, I only tanked 2 game overs. This video is where you'll see the first one, and it's not against Dante, but it is in this video, my first unfortunate death. And because it was on my way out, and there's no save points during the kalpa run, I had to do this entire third kalpa a second time after this recording. And to be fair, nothing really changed. Like between, there's no unique thing that I felt like needed to be recorded to show. Like, I show like my level up, because I get like a slight stat difference, and that's it. Because when a demon level ups, what stat gets leveled up is picked at random. And so, just because on this run a demon leveled up and say got a point in strength, doesn't mean they'll get a point in strength when I came back through the next time when I lost a half hour worth of footage and had to do it again because of a death. And also, yes, his hit and evasion stat is still through the roof even after you nerf him. It's just something you learn to accept. Dante's not going to miss often when you fight against him. But this second fight is the last time you'll be fighting Dante in the game, or Rido in the Rido run. And it's still baffling. Like, I know a lot of people meme on it, but it's still fun. Like, people don't just meme on it because it's dumb, even though it is kind of stupid. They meme on it because it adds to the game. It genuinely makes it really fun to mess around with Dante and fight against him. And if you can make it all the way to the 5th kalpa, you'll be given the opportunity to straight up recruit him to your party. Which is why I've said before about the whole Pierce thing. Because it is significant, because every single demon in the game and Demi-Fiend can learn Pierce one way or another. Yes, you have to go really out of your way to get your demons to learn it, because you need to be like a stupidly high level. You need to be level 95 and then fuse a specific demon to open a specific door on the 5th kalpa to then get a demon that can learn Pierce. But Dante was the only one who couldn't learn it. So the fact that they've corrected it in the remaster, because Dante was great in normal encounters but straight up useless in the finale. Like, you'd go to boss fights and you'd just get rid of him. Dante was useless in bosses because he didn't have Pierce. Well, so now the fact that that's been addressed makes him so much more fun to have. And full disclaimer, there's a couple boss fights later on where I bring him out. I don't fully rely on him because I want my main party to still feel like my main party if you've only got the original and haven't picked up the remaster. Because if you've only got the original, Dante doesn't have Pierce, so he's nowhere near as effective. So you're not going to keep him around for some of those boss fights. There is one boss fight where, regardless of the run, it is worth having. Because there's a boss fight later on that is extremely bulky, and its gimmick is that every single turn, it changes what element it can be hurt by, and it'll be immune to everything else. So bringing Dante along, because Dante has a built-in wind skill, which you just saw, and a built-in electric skill, can really speed up that fight by just having an extra damage dealer on 2 of those 4 rotations. Which, to be fair, that boss is I believe the longest encounter in the game. Like, in my recording, no other boss fight took as long as that one, and I'll bring it up when we get to it, because it is a stretch. It does take a long ass time. Which is a little annoying, because I was kind of hoping, with how much more experience I have with this game now over the years compared to my first run, I would be able to cut the time down with that fight a lot, but it still feels like it drags on forever.
You're better than I thought.
But now we've entered this point, there is a chance Dante will use his ultimate skill, Showtime. But the thing that decides it is, he has to use it on his second press turn. He will never use it on his first. This is why he never shows it off. Almost every turn from this point onwards, he misses. And so it never happens. But when I end up dying and doing it a second time, the reason why he shows it off is because he uses Holy Star on his first turn, so he doesn't have to worry about missing anything. So he has his second turn free, and then he uses Showtime. So you'll see the animation, you'll see what it's like. You're just not going to see it now. You're going to see it later in the video when I had to come back. Because like I said, round trip misses every time, so he never gets to show off Showtime, and there he goes. And you get 10,000 experience for it, which is amazing. That's a free level up party-wide around about. And so now you're going to start seeing me lean into Vitality, because when we get those stronger physical skills, they rip holes in your health to use them, because physical skills require health to use. And so I start putting more levels into my Vitality to make sure that my health is high enough to survive using those skills and not put myself in dangerous situations. I debate for a while whether to get Beseech or not, and I eventually... I think when I come back I do, because Lucky Find is worthless. Lucky Find is when you're wandering the open map, there's a chance your demon will just pick up an item. But I've never found use out of it. But I get Miragi Dine, which is group-wide high fire, which is our first group-wide Dine, which is beautiful. And you'll see it says changes of Satya coming in the body. Keep Satya around. After you've leveled her up to max, you'll evolve into a new demon.
Not bad at all. I like your style. You know what? If we continue fighting and I end up killing you, then I'll be giving the old geezer exactly what he wants. And that just won't do. So get going. I won't try and stop you this time. I thought if I kept collecting those crappy-ass candles, I'd eventually hit the jackpot. But I guess plans change. Maybe you'll have better luck than I did trying to get to the bottom of all this. It'd be a shame for you to die now, so I'll give you a little help. You'll need this to move on. It's just a worthless piece of junk as far as I'm concerned. At this point, all I care about is what that geezer has up his sleeve. Here, take it. Alright, that's that. If we both manage to stay alive, I'm sure we'll meet again.
Oh, he's so cool! But that's the last we'll see of Dante until we make it to the 5th Kalpa. And it's kind of sort of the end of Dante's real plot interest. Like, he told you something that you should have kind of worked out by now, that you're not getting the menorah is a test to see the best. You've deliberately been assigned to collect all the menorahs, and all the other fiends are just tests to see if you're worthy of something. And it's what that something is will become more and more to light as we go on. But going down the corridor, you'll get access to the peephole to see the old gentleman and the lady more and learn a little bit more about the world. Your lore reward.
So, you've survived the challenge of the pistol-wielding swordsman.
She's acknowledging Dante!
How far you've come along. The demon inside you will continue to be your source of strength during your quest. Power. It is what all humans seek. It is built into them. Whether it is the power of light or the power of darkness, people rely on it and pray. They do so wishing for greater power. In fact, a woman you know quite well prayed to a goddess in hopes of saving the world. Let me tell you about that particular deity. Aradia. She is from a vortex world beyond the boundaries of this one. In the Amala universe, where time and space melt together and flow as one, there exist countless vortex worlds. One of these worlds is where Aradia originated. As you are already aware, this vortex world was built upon a foundation, what you may consider to be the previous world. However, in its shadow lies another world, where those considered fictitious gather. And that is the vortex world where Aradia once resided. Those who dwell there wish for one thing, for their existence to become real. To find the means, they depart into the ocean of Amala and seek out worlds that hold the power of creation. Aradia herself is a tragic savior born of dreams. She emerged in response to the cries of witches who were persecuted for their beliefs. The witches prayed to Aradia for power and freedom. They also prayed for people to be saved from the hardships of life. However, Aradia never showed herself on Earth, nor did she save anyone. She was a being who could only give hope to her believers. Humans, whom God created a god of their own. Anything is indeed possible within the vast ocean of Amala. Nevertheless, Aradia is still an outsider. There is little that she can do in a vortex world where her existence is forbidden. She is merely a goddess of forsaken freedom. There are many you have spoken to during your time here, including the fiends and us. You have heard the voice of the Absolute One, too. But please know this, in the everlasting flow of Amala, we have long waited for you, for a time such as this to come. The true significance of the menorahs in the labyrinth of Amala, the new demon of chaos, whom all are waiting for in anticipation, and the final moment that my master awaits. Oh, you must be overwhelmed by all this. But if you can restore the menorahs to their original places and come here once again, then at that time, I will tell you the answers to all of your questions.
The Lady in Black is kind of interestingly vague on her wording of explaining Aradia. She says that it's from a fictitious land, and everything from that land wants to be real. When that's... It's not that it's fictitious, it's that the universe died. The universe that Aradia came from is no more. It ceased to exist. So technically it's fictitious now, but at one point it was real. Which is why those beings exist in the first place. They're the last remaining surviving beings of a universe that completely died and ceased to exist. And so Aradia just wants to become a real god again, and not a god from a dead land. Ow. Okay, but something I need to actually talk about this, because it's something that I actually wasn't aware of until after I finished my recording, and was watching someone play Hard Type, who is like knows this game far better than I do. Like, I'll talk about what I know about before I talk about what I don't. If you get every single box, like these boulders that we're breaking through, they occasionally drop money. They're very specific ones that drop money. If you break every single one in a sequence, the money will stack up more and more, so you can get more money. So if you break 5 in a row, the first will give you 100, then the next will give you 200, then 400, then 800, and then 1,600, 3,200, yada yada. Like, the amount they give you per coin pickup is more and more. On the final stretch, if there's a secret stretch later on where if you break and get every single coin reward, you'll get about 10 in a row that all just give you 9,999. And so you can rack up marker insanely quickly. And I never knew about it. I genuinely was never aware of it. I just, when he gets to that specific one, and I'll point it out when we get to it, because it's a secret hidden away one. It's not one of the main ones you go through. You have to actually go out of your way to access it. I mostly avoid it because it's one of the most dangerous ones because of how much is thrown at you. Also, there's my death. I was on my way back, got a back attack. The enemy immediately used Mudun on me specifically. It connected, instant kill, death, game over. And there's my first game over. And I was like, God damn it. So I had to do the whole of that again. But on my second run, Dante actually used Showtime, his ultimate skill. Which is so cool. It's almighty based, so it won't get reflected or drained. It is almighty. It's not elemental magic. And on the way round, Kishinada gets a level up in magic instead of whatever it was before. But everything else is still roundabout the same. I just show it off to show that what I went for, so you know what's different, if anything, in terms of stat gain. Also, a skill goes to be changed, and I cautiously accept it. And because I already had Miragidine, I didn't care for that, but that was still a bit unfortunate that I lost base Argidine. But that's going to wrap it up. Next time on SMT3 Nocturne, we're actually going to get back to the main plot, I promise. But until then, you guys take care now. Peace.